Hello, everybody. My name is Tina Arduno Calderon. I am Gabrielino Tongva and Ventureño Chumash. And we are happy to be here with you tonight. I'm going to start an opening prayer, and I invite you to join me. So we're going to start by turning to the north.
Another minute and a half, but I'm going to share with you the desperation of other people telling lies of who they say or think that we are, and we're not. We need to all be better relatives from all four directions, from all four nations. The medicine wheel is four colors, and not one color is more important than the other. They are touching within that circle, that community, that we move together forward, that white, black, red, and yellow are united in that medicine wheel, and that's what makes it medicine. We need each other. We cannot forget that we are connected, and that includes the Tree Nation. That includes the Rock Nation.
The power of memory, the power of ancestry. But this place bears very special significance because it was on this ground, this very ground where you're all standing. The Japanese Americans from Los Angeles in the Second World War gathered to board buses to go to detention centers on the way to concentration camps. Where you're standing, there were buses lining the street. People were gathered here with their belongings, with their children's, with the tags that identified, with a number that identified each one of them.
An end to the suspension of due process and unjust detentions. Never again is now. We're ready. We represent
East-West Players,
JACL, Pacific Southwest District.
Japanese American Cultural and Community Center.
The Japanese American National Museum.
Kizuna, Little Tokyo Service Center.
Manzanar Committee,
Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress.
Nikkei Progressives.
Tuesday Night Project.
Tuna Canyon Detention Station Coalition.
Vigilant Love.
Visual Communications.
We represent groups and organizations in the Japanese American and Little Tokyo community that believe it is important for us to raise our voices against the White House's plans to use Fort Sill and any other former concentration camps and facilities as detention centers for migrant children, and to protest the inhumane enforcement of immigration policies and practices of ICE.
We are survivors and families of those incarcerated in America's concentration camp. So we know what concentration camps are, and these detention centers are exactly that, modern-day concentration camps.
We believe in the importance of learning from history, and we know that Fort Sill was a place of repeated forced removal, the detention of children, and family separation.
Long before 700 Issei were separated from their families and detained during World War II, 300 members of the Apache Nation were incarcerated at Fort Sill.
Long before Kanesaburo Oshima, distraught at being separated from his 11 children, was shot and killed by a guardsman. Geronimo died while imprisoned at Fort Sill.
Long before the government's plan to house 14,000 immigrant children here, Native children from many different tribes were separated from their families and sent to Fort Sill boarding schools.
We know firsthand what xenophobia feels like. We know what inhumane conditions feel like. We know what illegal detention and unconstitutional acts look like. We know what family separation feels like and the ongoing trauma it creates.
Never again is now.
And we know what it's like to be called a threat to national security because of our ancestry or how we worship. And we know what it's like to be branded invaders who threaten this nation's way of life by those seeking political advantage.
This government has not learned from its own mistakes. In spite of the conclusions by this government that the incarceration of Japanese Americans was based on race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership, these same factors are at play today in the scapegoating of immigrants.
Never again is now.
We know that there are more than 13,000 children in custody under the Department of Health and Human Services, many sleeping on concrete floors with no soap, toothbrushes, or adequate health and medical care. Tragically, 7 children have died while detained by ICE.
Never again is now.
We know that thousands of children were forcibly separated from their parents and taken long distances away. And although the government was given a court order and deadline to reunite them with their families, they say it may take 2 years to track the children down.
Never again is now.
We know that our asylum laws grant refugees the right to apply for asylum with the ability to stay in the U.S. until their hearing. But this government has turned people away. Instead of finding a safe haven, those seeking relief from violence and poverty find themselves criminalized and terrorized at the border.
Never again is now.
We must speak out not only because of our community's experiences during World War II, but also because we see the conditions of these detention centers for what they are, a human rights violation.
That's right. Never again is now.
We thank the Tsuru for Solidarity Group for organizing 300 people from across the country and locally at Fort Sill last Saturday to protest at the former camp. We are inspired and proud of the camp survivors who risked arrest to express their anger at the use of Fort Sill as yet another detention center for children.
We stand in solidarity with other Japantowns in San Francisco and San Jose who are protesting today for an end to the suspension of due process and unjust detentions. Never again is now. An end to family separation and the immediate reunification of all families. Never again is now. An end to the ill treatment of those seeking asylum and protection. Never again is now. An end to the inhumane conditions at the detention camps. Never again is now.
This past weekend, people from across the country gathered in Fort Sill to protest its reactivation. And we are so lucky that that contingent included members from Little Tokyo and that they are here to share back on that protest. So up next, we'll have Fort Sill folks.
Thanks for being here tonight. Standing behind me are Karen Ishizuka, Ruth Wakabayashi Kondo, Atlas Winfrey, Alan Kondo, Reverend Duncan Williams, Leslie Ishii, and Martha Nakagawa. My name is Joy Yamaguchi, and I am a Yonsei, 4th generation descendants of survivors of Japanese American concentration camps. I am also a member of Nikkei Progressives. I am honored to be speaking on behalf of this powerful group of activists behind me. Last weekend, all of us traveled from Los Angeles to Lawton, Oklahoma to Fort Sill as part of a collective called Tsuru for Solidarity. Tsuru is the Japanese word for crane, and for us, Tsuru was a symbol of hope and the way we can rise up as a community. We brought with us tens of thousands of origami tsuru folded by people across the country. Throughout the weekend's protests, we held them high and proud, like you can see them holding them behind me. We all had our own personal reasons for going. Many of us are descendants of camp survivors. Many of us have worked or lived in communities that are impacted by today's immigration policies. Reverend Duncan Williams felt compelled on behalf of the 90 Buddhist priests that were incarcerated during World War II at Fort Sill. Not all of us initially identified as activists. Not all of us were able to speak with our families about these histories. But all of us went because we have a personal connection to the history of Japanese American incarceration during World War II. We had to go and be the allies and accomplices that our families did not have when they were forcibly removed from their homes because they looked like the so-called enemy.
We've been contacted by organizers in Oklahoma, and there is a very large direct action being planned for July. They want us back next month. Tsuru for Solidarity has been helped to organize this action. We are hoping to take a delegation of Japanese Americans and allies back to Oklahoma for this action. We will be announcing details on our Facebook page as soon as information becomes public. Also, thank you to those who folded cranes. We asked for 10,000 for Crystal City, Texas, and what became our direct action in Oklahoma, and we got 30,000 cranes. They are such a powerful symbol of transformation and liberation. But now we are asking for 125,000 tsuru, as we are also heading to Washington, May of 2020. Are you with us?
Yes.
Are you with us? Are you with us?
No, no ban, no wall, no camps, no.
Together.
No ban, no wall, no camps, no. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Fort Sill, shut it down!
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 They were using a word just now. I want to spell it out real quick. Are y'all cool learning a little Japanese?
Yes.
Tsuru, T-S-U-R-U. One more time. T-S-U-R-U. Can you repeat after me? Tsuru. 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 That means crane. So what we're going to ask you to do is go on your social media and look up Tsuru for Solidarity. Say that with me. Tsuru for Solidarity.
My name is Billy, and I feel so fortunate and blessed to be here amongst y'all tonight. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my community. A community that lives in fear because of unjust immigration policies that threaten to tear our family, our community apart through detentions and deportations. I'm here because I do not want to witness any more suffering in our communities. I want to briefly share my story. As mentioned earlier, I am a refugee from Cambodia. At the age of 1, my father was killed by Khmer Rouge soldiers when they took control of the country. His crime was being a scholar and speaking Chinese. My mother, my older brother, and I were sent to labor camp. Between the age of 1 and 4, I experienced famine, neglect, and sickness that nearly cost me my life. At the age of 5, my family and I fled the war-torn country and immigrated to America as a refugee. Growing up, I struggled with a sense of identity. I didn't know at the time that the trauma I experienced during my early year was affecting the decision-making process. During my teens, I sought acceptance and felt a sense of belonging with my peers. That led me to gang involvement eventually. I started making bad decisions. At the age of 19, I made a terrible choice to commit a crime that got me a life sentence where I spent 21 years in prison. Upon my release, I was paroled to a detention center. I was released 4 months after, only to be re-detained 1.5 years later. During my period of re-entering society, I did everything I can to be a productive member of society. I was grateful for my second chance, and I just wanted to be amongst the community to contribute and to continue my path of redemption and to...
It's incredible to be here. I was honored. I was asked by Nikkei Progressives to write a poem for the occasion. It's a haiku. It's called For the Souls of the Children. Mommy, Daddy, help. Frozen cries melt the cage. Please, I'm dying. Concentration camps. Children are expendable. Their lives don't matter. Young souls don't forget. They remember their laughter, their nightmares, their hopes. The world breathes their dreams, songs sung, carried by angels. The silence listens. A mantra begins. Sacred atoms sing the truth. 7 children dead. Souls of dead children, our conscience will heal your wounds. Your innocence lives.
Por las almas de los niños. Mamá, papá, ayuda. Llantos congelados se derriten en la jaula. Por favor, me estoy muriendo. Campos de concentración. Los niños son prescindibles. Sus vidas no importan. Las almas jóvenes no olvidan. Se acuerdan de sus risas, sus pesadillas, sus esperanzas. El mundo respira sus sueños. Canciones cantadas, cargadas por ángeles. El silencio escucha. Inicia una mantra. Átomos sagrados cantan la verdad. 7 niños muertos. Almas de niños muertos. Nuestra conciencia sanará sus heridas. Sus inocencias viven.
Felipe Gómez Alonso.
Presente. María Juárez. Presente.
Marilyn Juárez.
Presente.
Jacqueline Cal Maquín.
Presente. Juan de León Gutiérrez. Presente.
Oscar Alberto Martínez Ramírez.
Presente. Carlos Gregorio Hernández Vázquez. Presente.
Valeria Martínez Ramírez.
Presente.
Thank you.
Thank you for the honor of coming out here and being able to address all of you, because I'm just absolutely proud, honored to be here. I am so happy to see all of you, and I'm so happy because you showed up. You showed up, you stood up, you spoke out, you're still speaking out, and you're still fighting back, because that's what matters. Because I want to go back home, because you're all here, and talk to the people who didn't come, who didn't bother, and ask them if they have adjusted to injustice. Because complacency is complicity. We're not going to be a part of it. You got to stand up and say, we're not a part of this. We're not a part of family separation. We're not a part of criminalizing immigrants. Down with ICE. We need to abolish ICE. We need to put a cap on Homeland Security, because immigrants are some of the best people I know, and every single one of us is derived from immigrants. And let me talk a little bit about concentration camps. We can't look at what's happening in those concentration camps and be still and be silent. We have to stand up and do exactly what we're doing. We have to stand up, we gotta march, we gotta protest, we gotta vote. We gotta go out and get everybody in the vote. We gotta get rid of the fascists in our government. The white supremacists, the Nazis in the White House. They don't belong there. They're not part of America. They're part of the worst of us. I hate to say this because I know that some of you are imbued with the whole thing, but I'm telling you, Donald Trump is the ugly face of unbridled capitalism. Greed, ego, are drive motivators for things like more power, more property, more profit. There are some kinds of more that are never going to be enough. It is evil, it is wrong. We have to be here for each other. Everything we do for our own little community, whatever it is meaningless unless if it helps advance all of society. Yes. What we do has to benefit all of us. And that includes all the people that nobody seems to care about. There are no throwaway people. And that includes the people in prison. That includes all the people behind bars. Whether or not they think it's for a good reason. None of these immigrants should be treated this way. It's been pointed out that we treat prisoners of war better than we are treating the people in the detention centers across the border. It is wrong. It's a violation of every human principle, including the Geneva Convention. They should be taking these jerks. I'm not going to read some of my... No more vulgarity here. It's kind of a mixed audience. I'm going to be a bad influence. So, I won't tell them what I think they are. They're a bunch of jerks, twerps. And they're at least Nazis, and we have to get rid of them. But we have to stand up and say that that's not our values. We stand with the immigrants. We care about, we're in solidarity with every single child who's being taken into custody is being treated the way they're being treated. We have a legacy. We are Japanese Americans, and we got put in camp for our race. The same thing is happening now. We can't let it happen now. And you're right. Never again. It's happening again. And you're right, and it can't happen again. And why is that? Here and now. It is happening again. So never again
is now.
Never again
is now.
Never again is happening now. And are we going to let that happen?
No.
Thank you very much.
知らない人たちがつながってるなんて採用した子供あなたのおじいちゃんお守りを持ってくださいおばあちゃんも思い出していく少しずつ思い出していく少しずつ She knows that this is it. She saw me in the spirit. She knows that this is it.